Hey guys, I'm Becky from BBReviews, and today I will be reviewing The Beholder by Anna Bright. Our main character in The Beholder is a girl named Sella. She is now at the marrying age, and she is the heir of her kingdom. Her plan is to marry her best friend, but unfortunately he publicly rejects her. Now her stepmother has set up this grand scheme for her to go on a trip around the world, meeting eligible bachelors to find a husband. Her stepmother basically says, come back married or don't come back at all. Now, with her stepmother pregnant and her father's health starting to go downhill, Sella is very on board with trying to do whatever it is she has to do in order to keep her kingdom. We follow Sella as she goes on this adventure to meet these different boys, and wow, are there some boys. This book has been compared to one of my all-time favorite books, The Selection by Kira Cass, and I definitely think if you are a fan of The Selection, you will definitely like this book as well, as I loved it. This book also just released on June 4th, so be sure to head to your local bookstore to grab a copy for yourself because I will definitely be needing a finished copy. Now, when I first started this book, I didn't have that high of expectations for it. It does start out a little bit slow, and I didn't really like Sella in the beginning. She doesn't stand up for herself, and she just lets her stepmother walk all over her. There were plenty of times in her head where Sella is talking about how things are unfair and how this shouldn't be happening, but she doesn't stand up and be a force to be reckoned with. She is kind of portrayed as meek and small and just somebody who's in the background. Nobody's listening to her, and I was just waiting for that moment where Sella would stand up and demand attention. In the beginning, we also learn about the world of this book. It is kind of our world, but also it is fake at the same time, so it's kind of based on how the world is set up now, but names have been changed. We're in a different time period. I don't know if it's past or present. I think it's past, but I'm not positive. And there is a lot of bits about learning about the history of Sella's kingdom and the world and wars that have been fought. And I found that part to be pretty boring. I think I would have liked it more if it was kind of like glossed over, or if it was a character telling it to us in like a story, like telling Sella, and we're there also to learn about that stuff. Instead, it is Sella telling the reader about the history of this world, and I just found those bits very boring. I didn't understand, and I wish that it was more organically woven into the story. The last bit that kind of caught me up when I first started reading it is we do have a couple of names and places that are different and, for me, very hard to pronounce. So I believe that this book is going to be also on audio. I unfortunately had a reviewer's e-copy, so I did not have access to the audiobook when I read it. But I would definitely suggest, if there is an audiobook, to listen to it, at least to find out how to pronounce different things, because for a couple of, specifically there's one country that we will be visiting in the next book, as this is part of a duology. Thank goodness. I definitely could not pronounce the name of that country, and there's also a couple characters that I had no idea how to pronounce their names, so I kind of just glossed over them whenever that came up. Now, the ship that Sella is going to be sailing on to meet all of these bachelors is called the Beholder, and once we get on the Beholder, that's when the story really starts. At this point, Sella has given up all hope. She feels worthless and just something to be married off. She doesn't feel listened to, and this is when her personality really starts to come out and when she really starts to make herself known. I definitely applaud the character development that is in this book, because our main character, Sella, who I started initially not liking because she didn't have a backbone, turns into this strong force to be reckoned with, and by the end, I really, really loved Sella, and I want nothing but the best for her. I cannot wait to get my hands on the next book. The parts where I really started to love Sella is when she is talking about finding her betrothed and how she feels about relationships and also respect within relationships. There were three very key moments in this book where it really made me stop reading and reflect on how I view things in the world and how I view relationships. And I really just applaud Anna Bright for putting these pieces in, because I think that this is exactly what today's YA needs. The first one comes up pretty early in the book, and that is when Sella learns all of the men that she is going to meet. She gets a folder of pictures and profiles of all these different guys, where they're from, and she's supposed to use it to her advantage to try to get to know them in order to make a better relationship, because she will only be spending 2 weeks with every guy. Now, what Sella starts to notice is that a lot of these bachelors are the heir to their kingdom. And Sella then has to think about, if she picks one of them that are next in line for the throne, whose kingdom will they choose? Now, Sella wants to rule over her kingdom, but at the same time, she also brings up the point that because she wants to rule her kingdom, she would totally understand if the man that she marries wants to choose his kingdom over hers, because that is where his loyalty should lie. And she questions on, if she did get with somebody who was in line for the throne and they decided to choose her kingdom, would she still respect them? And I loved that so very much, because on one hand, Sella is being loyal, but also a tad selfish by saying that she wants to choose her kingdom before she even meets these guys. But on the other hand, she says that she would not be able to respect somebody who could give up their loyalty to the country that they've lived in, grown up in, been groomed to rule one day. She would not be able to respect them if they left all that behind and ruled her kingdom. So she automatically starts ruling out these guys who are next in line, because she cannot ask them to leave their kingdom, the same as she would not want them to ask the same of her. The next little bit of wisdom that Sella brings us happens about midway through the book, and that is when she brings up the point that if somebody deceives you, how can you ever trust them again? Now, we are brought up in a romantic situation where somebody has told a lie, and Sella brings up that most girls would think that it's romantic, which was my initial reaction when I was reading it. I was like, oh my god, that's so cute. But Sella brings up how that isn't cute and that's not cool, and how can she ever trust them when they started this whole relationship with a lie? Now, I loved that so much, because there's so many times in different YA books where this trope of romance happens. I'm not going to give too much away because I don't want to spoil it, but just know that the way that one of the romances ends up happens a lot, and it never ends up the way that it does in The Beholder. In The Beholder, Sella is very upset. She feels lied to. She feels like she's been made a fool, and she's not cool with it. But in every other book where I've seen this trope done, we just go with it and we're like, oh, that's so adorable. And I just love that it's brought up that it's not cool, and that you have to start a relationship with trust. Now, the last little bit of wisdom that Sella brings up that I would like to talk about is the damsel syndrome. Sella brings up that she does not want to be somebody who is saved. She does not want to be somebody who is portrayed as weak. She wants to be a strong, equal partner in whatever relationship she is in. And again, I just applaud Anna Bright for putting this in to the storyline, because this is the message that we need to send to girls. This is the message that we need to send to women like me who still read YA. I just loved this book so very much. I absolutely loved everything about it as a whole by the end, but it's these wisdom pieces that really just threw this book into the 5-star level for me, because I was like, yes, this is what needs to be in books today. Now, since this book is a romance, let's go ahead and just dive into the romance. Now, if you're like me, you are all about romance in books. I love romance. I need a romance in like every book that I read. It's what pushes it into the next level for me. I need a character to pine after. And in this book, we meet multiple guys who I had feelings for, all of them. Now, there are technically only 2 official bachelors that we meet in this book, but to me, I saw sparks for a 3rd character. It doesn't go anywhere in this book, but we do have another book, and I can see the potential. I kind of hope it doesn't happen, but I can see it. The romance in these books is done so very well. I just lived for it. I ate it up. I devoured it. It was so freaking good. Now, I'm somebody who loves multiple points of view. I love love triangles. I love everything about having multiple people that we could have a relationship with, and having a book where we have a bunch of guys who are trying to win her hand is just the best to me. So I love the way that this was done. I love that we only met one guy at a time. I really enjoyed that there wasn't a whole lot of turmoil in terms of the romance. Like, it really was just Sella and one guy at a time. There is that third person who I can see things with, but it didn't go anywhere. That kind of put a little bit of turmoil, but at the same time, not really. Like, he really stepped back whenever Sella was with one of the official bachelors. So I just really enjoyed that about the story, because I don't like a whole lot of drama. I don't like the feeling of cheating, even though in this situation there's no way it could be cheating, because the whole point of this is she's meeting multiple people. They all know about it when they signed up for it. But there is a way that you could throw that kind of feeling of cheating in there, and I love that it wasn't present in this book. Now, our first bachelor, I really enjoyed, and when you read this book, you're not gonna understand why, because it is a weird situation, but I really fell for it. At the end of it, when things happen, I am not for it, and I was like, nope, forget them. Like, we're leaving. Get on the Beholder. We're going to the next guy. Like, I was so done with it. But at the same time, I was like, but let's keep him in the background. Like, we can come back to him if things don't go well with the other guys. But our official bachelor number 2, I am just head over heels for. Oh my god, I want her to pick him so bad. I will just say that I am on Team T. That's all I'll say. I'm so about it. The way that this book ends just crushed me. I have so many quotes highlighted from this book for Team T. Like, oh my god, it was just like the most dreamy, perfect romance. I loved everything about it. I need it to happen. I am scared because I did really see Sella with any of the guys that we met in this first book. I'm scared what's going to happen in book 2, but I really don't think that anybody could beat him. So I'm really hoping that it works out in book 2, because he was seriously like just the best. So it should come as no surprise to you that I am giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. I was going into it really hoping that I would enjoy this book, because everything about it just screamed, this is the book for you. But I don't like going into books with too high of expectations. I'm so happy that this book just totally blew me out of the water. I loved it so much. I went through so many emotions. I was happy, I was in love, I was sad, I was mad, I was heartbroken. I went through everything, and I love it so much. I need book 2 in my hands like now, but I'm sure that it's not going to come out until 2020, as it just released earlier this month. This is why I don't read books before or as soon as they release, because I have to wait so long for the next one. I will just say that you guys have got to get your hands on this. It's so well done. I applaud Anna Bright so much, because she is like seriously just the best. She is like now one of my favorite authors. I gotta read everything she writes now. Like, this was just so perfection. It's exactly what I needed when I read it. And I can't say enough amazing things about this. Alright guys, that is everything that I have for you in this review video. If you liked it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, you want to see more bookish content from me, please hit that subscription button. And if you want to be notified as soon as my videos go live here on YouTube, hit the notification bell. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!